This is the Home and Garden Leaders podcast, the 8th episode. I'm Jan Hofmann, and I'm sitting here with Henrik Jørgensen from House Nordic. And Henrik, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit so our listeners can understand your background a bit better?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Henrik. I am the founder of House Nordic. House Nordic is a wholesale company in Denmark. We are selling all over Europe in 42 different countries. I started up the company in 2017, so it's 5.5 years ago. I started up in my kitchen, start to order some few containers from Indonesia, China, made a small catalog, and then bring some products to Europe and start to visit some furniture shops, interior shops in Denmark. And after some few trips, I got my first orders. I was so lucky that my father, he had went on pension. So he had some time to help me because I was driving all day to get my first customer. And he had also a few friends. So I put them in the warehouse and they helped me start to pack the first orders. And I could type in the orders in the evening and made the invoices. And then I could go and every day in my car and start visiting customer, and step by step it start to grow. And then it has been really going fast since after 6 months I could hire our first employee. It helped me a lot, so I could focus on product development, new items, and develop the business. And today we have grown to around 45 people with a big warehouse and sale all over Europe. Today we have around 1,000 customers, all B2B, meaning it can be interior shops, it can be garden center, DIY, furniture shops, online shops, selling our products. So we send products every day to many different countries, and we still feel it's a big opportunity for us to grow further. If you look at our products, it's a lot of different products. I don't think many companies has this wide range what we have, going from dining chair to sofa to small accessory items to outdoor furniture, which makes our company like one-stop shopping for many furniture shops and really many online shops also.
And what was your personal background before founding the company?
For 10 years, I was CEO of a company called TradePoint, which was also in the business, mostly doing direct containers, no warehouse. So it was full containers to the really big retail customer around the world. And with that background, I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to make a company where we had the products on stock so we could deliver very fast, especially also for the online. You could see the online business was growing and people wanted the product delivered very fast.
I see, that makes sense. So you basically saw a gap in the market to an extent, with people sort of being frustrated, or your potential customers being frustrated with deliveries taking too long with their existing suppliers, correct?
Yeah, actually many of the customer I found was not customer I worked with earlier, because it was much different if they buy a container or they buy from warehouse. But I saw, as you say, a gap to have very fast delivery, and also to make a brand where we really make nice design, Scandinavia design, but also for reasonable price. We really believe that the consumer should feel when they buy House Nordic products, they really get a lot of value for money. And I see many really, really good Danish brands, but also many brands, I feel they are quite expensive for the consumer. So we wanted to make something new, make a really nice brand, but still for good price. And I think that is also one of the reasons to our success, that you really get a lot when you buy House Nordic products.
Interesting. And how did you approach adding all of these additional countries that you're selling and delivering to? Because 42 is a very high number, actually. So I would be really curious to hear about that.
Yeah, of course, in the beginning, we tried to contact retailers around Europe, and when we start to get the first in Germany, in Czech Republic, in France, Holland, Sweden, we were lucky to get some of the also quite big online shops in the beginning. And when they start selling our products and they have good success, and they branded also our products as they are selling House Nordic, we also found out that actually many customers found us as they were looking at their competitors and they find this new House Nordic brand, and then more customers are calling us now if they also can sell our brand. So of course in the beginning it's really hard to get out as you are unknown brand, but as more we get known, more customer is coming to us by themselves.
So basically the initial reason you mentioned to start the company was you wanted to challenge yourself. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Because the contrast between basically starting a company from scratch versus being like in the C-suite of a well-established bigger firm, it must be quite big, right? So it would be really interesting to hear about that as well.
Yes, of course. Now I just got 50 years old, and when I started, I was around 45 years old. So I've always been like a kind of entrepreneur, but still working for different companies. Also, companies who have been growing quite fast. But really, to have your own, of course, it's some other sorts about financial things, and you're more insecure when you have your own matter of salary and future. So after all these years, I said if I should do it, it should be now. And I haven't regretted. I think it's really, really nice. And of course, it can be hard to have your own, but also how your mentality is, how your DNA is in the company. You can really do what you want. If you are manager of a company, you still have some rules to follow. And here, I really want to make a team, a House Nordic team, where the employees really feel secure and feel it's more like a home, and they should be happy to go for work every day. And the culture should be like one big team working together, not like this is you do this and I do this. So this is what we have a lot of focus on in the whole company, from the warehouse to the buying department, the selling department. People are really helping each other and working for the same goal, everybody.
How do you make sure that this environment is being created or maintained?
Yeah, it's a lot about communication and trying to get my DNA, what I feel and what I think to the company. Every month we have a big meeting where we put all together, all 45 people in the company. We spend a half an hour together talking about what has been happening the last months, what will happen in the future. It started actually mostly when Corona started, where everybody was really insecure and afraid to lose their job, and nobody knew what will happen. At that time, we made this small team meeting for the whole company every week to say, okay, what should we do now? What is our plan? And then we found out it was really people got together, and all the communication between different departments, and I could give a lot of information to everybody at the same time. It made people more secure, and they knew, okay, what is our strategy? What do we actually want in House Nordic, and what is our goal? And how can we work together for the same goal? So this is one way to really be good in the communication and be very open-minded. If there's some problems or successes, we can share it together.
How did Corona, like the virus, treat your firm overall?
Overall, in the beginning, the first months, we had placed a lot of orders because the company was growing, and a lot of orders, when we placed them in China, Indonesia, India, we placed them maybe 4 to 6 months before we received the products. So we already had placed a lot of orders, and then suddenly the sale stopped almost 100% when the Corona came. Nobody knew what will happen in the world, so everybody was insecure. They saved the money.
Yeah.
So we had to call many of the factories to delay some shipments and postpone orders. And then after 3-4 weeks, people should stay at home and could not go to work, or they couldn't at least go on holiday or go for the restaurant. So they start really to spend money buying things because they had money, which they could not spend on other things like before. So in general, our business and other wholesale companies like they start to sell more. In the beginning, it was hard, and then it started to grow. So Corona really pushed our sale quite much because people had the money for their home. They must stay home, so they bought for the garden and for the home, new sofa, new dining table. Then it started with the other problems which followed was that the prices started to raise. The freight from Asia got really crazy. So how much could we raise the prices? We still want to have our DNA to keep the prices strong for our customer. But of course, if the freight raised so much, we had to put up some few prices, but we really tried to do it as little as possible to keep the DNA of our brand.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And what sort of initial challenges did the company face and overcome?
Of course, in the beginning, when you are not so many people, you must find some good employees who can have more projects going on at the same time. I hired some buying people, but they also needed to be a big part of the sale and also support in the warehouse. So I would say in the beginning, you really have to help with everything. Of course, when you get bigger, we should still have this team feeling in the company, but of course, you are more dedicated in the projects where you're also strong.
Interesting. Yeah. So basically finding generalists that essentially are able to do a little bit of everything with your supervision, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what would you say is the current vision of the company?
We can say as bigger we grow, as more we also can put into our own design of the products. So now in the beginning, when I start to buy, I traveled in China, I picked some products which was maybe also seen other places or more like what was in the market. Now we can really design our own products. We have a good cooperation with designers, so we can really bring totally new items in the market, what has not been seen before. And normally when companies do that, they also really put up the price because they invest in design and all the whole process. But we managed to do it with low cost, and then we can bring really new and nice products in the market for good price, which is not seen before. So in Europe, we see it as our home market because we are selling to all countries in Europe. Also selling now to Canada, we are selling to Australia, but it's still not our focus. We really have the focus as Europe, and then maybe in 2, 3, 4 years, we will have more focus on other countries as well. But there's a big market for us still waiting in Europe.
Interesting, yeah. Because usually if you think unique design, it usually comes at a bigger price tag. So how do you go about kind of having both, right? So how do you make sure it can be cheap as well as have a unique look to it, right?
It's also because we have the strength now and we have the power as the volume we do is quite big, meaning if you do for a dining chair, you do a shape which is well known, or you do another shape, another look for a dining chair, the price for making it is almost the same. It's more the developing cost. But if you have big volume, many thousand pieces for a dining chair, then the design cost is very low for each piece. So by having big volume and have a good price, we can bring a lot of new products in the market for still the same price as the normal chairs what is seen, and also still to keep the good quality. But because even our price is strong, we don't go on compromise with the quality. It should really be strong and nice quality when we put it in the House Nordic brand.
Got it. Yeah. So it's basically there's the fixed cost of coming up with the design, and then the variable cost, it's pretty much the same no matter if it's how unique it, like, I mean, it depends, right? But with what you're doing, definitely possible. I see that. Yeah. Okay, great. Then what's an interesting story that you'd like to share with our audience?
What could I more say of interesting stories? Well, you can say today we are buying from a lot from Asia. We start to move some of the production to Europe, also because there was a lot of this freight cost really raised crazy. To bring a container to Europe maybe was less than 2,000 euro. Then it raised to 10 to 15,000 euro to bring a container. And if you have 1, 2, 3 containers every day, of course, it's crazy, a lot of money, extra cost. So we start to move some production to Europe, but there's still a lot of the product what we do, because we also do some special material like teakwood or rattan chairs. You cannot produce them in Europe because you don't have the raw material, and so many of the products are still produced in the countries where I would say they are also being produced in the best quality, because the people are well known for weaving or doing this kind of product. And luckily now we can see that the freight costs start to go down and the prices get more normal again.
And also with Europe, I guess you get easier to handle supply chain, right? Because there's less things that can go wrong potentially, no?
That is right. Exactly, yeah.
Great. Then overall, it sounds like you're growing quite fast, or at least you've grown quite fast up until this point. So what do you think are the things you do different from people who don't see growth like this? So obviously, like, you have a certain background, right? But I would still be really curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to find the right people to work with you. That I really think we have managed to have this 45 people who really not just go to work, but they work for our philosophy, our strategy, and then really have this mind that things don't have to be expensive because they are nice and they have good quality. This is really our mindset. We must bring new products all the time. Every year we come with more than 200 products in the market, and it should be there's many products which is nice, which we have developed, but if we cannot make them for the right price, then we don't bring them in the market. They should really be nice products, but also for good price. So with this philosophy, if we can keep this, it's I really believe we can go further on for many years.
And with recruitment, what would you say the attributes are that you're looking for in people? Because obviously afterwards you have to communicate to them the strategy, maybe even in before. But before you make the decision to hire someone, what are kind of the key things that you're looking for?
It's a lot of personality, looking at people that you can feel them, that you can feel they really also have like a goal for their life, and when they start here, they really should go into it with all what they have. Even they should not say, okay, I can only do this. This is just my job, and what the other do, I don't care. They should really think wide, think about their colleagues, think about what is happening in the company in other departments. So it's really the mentality of being a team player and also be open-minded.
And then you're hiring locally, I assume, right?
Mostly, yes.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that that doesn't become a bottleneck?
I would say we have some people also actually traveling quite far. We have a few people driving 1 to 2 hours just to come here every day, but mostly people are living within 30 kilometers area here. And as we don't need so much specialists, because if people have the right mindset, we are also very open to train them and to support them, coach them, help them. So in that way, it's easier to find people if you only look for the specialists, which maybe are not in your area. Then we look more for who are the people, and then we can train them and help them to get right in the position.
I see. Yeah. So it's basically you really focus on the personality someone has rather than the experience someone has, or the industry understanding, etc., right?
Of course, a combination is the best, but if we should choose, we will look for the personality. It's the most important.
Yeah, I've seen a similar thing. I've spent like a couple months researching this actually, where you can look up how certain personality traits or certain elements or criteria relate to someone's performance in the workspace. And there's actually quite a bit of scientific studies done on this. And track record is really, I mean, it obviously matters, right? Let's not pretend it doesn't, but there's other elements that do matter a lot more. So it's definitely agree there, and the science agrees as well.
Yeah.
Okay. What are sort of the 3 takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience?
And maybe a little about how we also work in way of designing new products.
Oh yeah, for sure. That would be interesting. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of new products we bring. Sometimes we have a good dialogue, of course, with our suppliers all around the world. Next weekend, I'm traveling to India and Vietnam. There are some fairs and visiting some suppliers. Haven't been traveling for 2.5 years, something since Corona in Asia. So it's first time for a long time. Otherwise, at least 4 or 5 times was in Asia. So that would be good to go there again. And of course, we look at our suppliers, what can they bring of new products, but we must also say very often the Chinese people don't have the Scandinavian mindset or the Scandinavian design. So it's not so often that we can just take products from their design and then bring in the market. So it's a lot of adjustment, coming with our own ideas. We have a team here, a buying team of 5 people. who is very much involved in the design. And of course, sometimes we can also take our good items, we can make some small changes, we can make some new fabrics or new colors. It doesn't have to be gray and black everything. We like also to give it some new trendy colors to change the products. That can very fast change the product from a standard product also to a more interesting product.
Really interesting. Yeah. Anything else you want to add in terms of takeaways?
Yeah, the most important, of course, we want to keep growing. It has been this year has been quite hard for everybody in this business as Corona is mostly over. People can start to spend the money on a lot of other things and for their home. The holiday has been a big investment this year for many families, traveling more and want to go out more. So, of course, it came to our business that they didn't spend so much money in this, buying things for the home. So, especially during the summer, the sale was really low. And now we can see it, even people, you can say the financial thing is under pressure with high energy prices and things are getting more expensive. People are saving, but I would say after September, beginning of September, it started to go much better again in our business. So we're really happy to see that July, August was very hard, but now it's much better again. But I also think that by selling products which are not expensive, people can maybe afford our sofa for maybe 500 or 800 euro instead of buying a sofa for 2,000 euro. So I would say the company selling the more expensive items, it hurts more for them now when people start to save.
Yeah, I think especially if it's not unique designs, right? If it's like a more generic kind of design that people can find elsewhere and they have actual alternatives. Definitely agreed. Yeah. Cool. Any last words?
I think that was everything for us. We hope everybody had a little out of it and they can follow our brand. We were the fourth fastest company growing in Denmark last year. So we hope to get more known as we are getting bigger and hope to keep this.